I want to invite my friend Brad on. So good to see you again. And Dr. Kelly Wessel from Blue Valley. And they're going to take us down another road right now. So you guys, can you share camera? And I want to make sure I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my camera on now. Maybe the host has got to enable that for us. There you go. No, Leilani, it's a blast to be with you again. And I still am like, dude, how come nobody else thought of building this game board? And what a great way to really just play the game, play the game and feel what what you're talking about and all the great things you just shared around how technology really can elevate what we're doing. So yeah, thanks for having me back. And I'm happy to be joined with Dr. Wessel here from our district. And I think you're going to be hearing, or you connected with Dr. Merrigan, Tanya Merrigan, our superintendent, tomorrow.
Yeah. She's doing wrap-up batting with also Dr. Jessica Dane, superintendent of Piper Unified.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're happy to be here.
Yeah, this is awesome. And I'm so glad to see your topic title, you two. This is super important. Early on, it was just a mad scramble in April, May, June, right? And now Samantha this morning talked a lot about the social emotional side. This is like, we're in a moment. So I want to hear what you're doing. I'm going to turn my camera off and put the spotlight on you guys. And I'll just be muted in the background and watching questions because it's over to you.
Great. Can I share my screen, or do you guys have the slides? I'm so sorry. We didn't work out that minor detail before. Or Brad has the slides.
Yeah, you go. Yeah, you guys go ahead and share. I stopped sharing.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Well, hello. And thank you so much for having us. Is that, you guys can see that now? Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, we're good. Okay. Great. Well, Brad and I are excited to talk to you about some of our efforts in the Blue Valley School District when it comes to social emotional learning. I will say that to your point about it having a moment, that SEL is actually something that's always been a top priority for the Blue Valley School District. And I think a lot of school districts, it perhaps just didn't have the same level of intentionality behind it. We didn't have as much research as we do now about what is so important when it comes to providing a full curriculum to our students and giving them those social emotional learning skills are skills that are going to equip them for life, regardless of what they choose to pursue for their purpose and their passions. So while we do not have the answers, in fact, I would say we probably have very few answers, we are so fortunate that in our district, it has been a priority in multiple iterations of our strategic plan. I think this is vital to any school district, that the leadership has to come from the top, the bottom, all across the board. And the best way to do that is to make it a priority in your strategic plan. That's what your board adopts and votes on. It's what you can communicate to your stakeholders, especially your community. And it's really how you get buy-in from your students and your staff. So for us, we have just undergone recently the next iteration of our strategic plan. So from 20 to 25. And there are two key points I want to point out for us. The first being that we will ensure engaging, meaningful, and extraordinary educational opportunities for all students. And that really includes responding to matters of social emotional health with learning experiences that empower students to lead balanced, confident lives. The other one is that we will foster cultures of balanced health and well-being. And this isn't just for our students. This has to be for our families, and it has to be for our staff as well. We are a community, and we build our culture. And so the things that we do and the things that we prioritize impact every single person in that ecosystem. And so it's important that social emotional learning doesn't just stay within the walls of the classroom. It needs to be embedded in any meeting that you do with your leaders. There needs to be community events that your parents and families can join so that they can learn more about what is happening and they can partner with you. And it just needs to be a practice that is modeled any single time there's a staff meeting or a get together or anything like that. So in addition to really prioritizing social emotional learning from the district level, within the classrooms, among the community, it's also important to know who your key leaders and experts are going to be. So for us, we have worked diligently to build robust school mental health teams. These are our experts. These are the ones that are going to provide us with the tier 2, tier 3, and tier 1 levels of support. For our schools, we're so fortunate that we have about 67 counselors. There's 1 elementary counselor per building, 2 per middle school, and about 4 or 5 per high school, depending on the size of the high school. We also happen to have a counselor that's specific to supporting our students that also are in concurrent programs at our community college, as well as in light of the pandemic, as many schools did, we opened a virtual school or virtual program, and we have a full-time counselor to support our virtual students. We also are so fortunate in the Blue Valley School District to be down the street from a world-renowned children's hospital, Children's Mercy. You maybe have heard of them through various fundraisers. If you happen to know anything about Kansas City or follow the careers of famous actors like Paul Rudd or Jason Sudeikis, they do a huge fundraiser every year called the Big Slick for Children's Mercy Hospital. They're phenomenal. I have actually been there with my son when he fell off his bike and received top-notch service from them. But they have social workers that we now have partnered with them and are in our Blue Valley schools. So they work on our school calendar. They work full-time for Children's Mercy, but they're part of our staff too. So it's been a beautiful partnership for us to allow for social workers. You know, they really focus more on the social dynamics, the family dynamics. They can provide more resources for those, for the community dynamics, looking more in depth at housing, grief, loss, all kinds of stuff like that. So we, again, have added them to our school mental health teams. And also we have school psychologists, and our school psychologists work really closely with our special education department. They're the ones that are going to run a lot of tests for students. They're going to help set interventions. And so we are very fortunate to have one in every one of our schools as well. The key to the school mental health team is the word team, and they really do work together as a team. And we work really hard to really just market and brand to our students, to our staff, and to our families that at any point, if you are having a crisis or if you need assistance, you can call the school and you can just ask, I need to talk to somebody from our school mental health team. You don't need to know who they are. You don't even need to know if you need a counselor or a social worker or a school psychologist. It does not matter. Just call, say you need to talk to somebody on the mental health team, and they will make sure that they get you the support that you need. The other thing that we've done is, again, so if our school counselors and school psychologists and social workers are helping to really provide tier levels, tier 2 and tier 3 support, what does tier 1 look like? And tier 1 looks like a lot of professional learning and us providing strategies directly to our staff so that it can explicitly tell our students why we are doing those strategies and get them embedded in those daily learning experiences. So on a monthly basis, we send out a different strategy that is tied directly to Counsel's 5 competencies. So you can kind of see that right there. This is the title of the strategy, the SEL competency. This one in particular is on deep breathing and grounding, and it's really focused in self-awareness and self-management. So we, in each one of these emails, provide the why and the how and the what. Sometimes we provide video examples, sometimes we provide additional resources, and we always really try to focus on the science aspect of it. So we include this kind of teal blurb that you can see right here on positive effects of the brain. So we really have focused on anxiety, we've focused on loss and grief, we have done a lot on emotional intelligence, how to build a positive classroom, particularly in the beginning of the pandemic, when all of a sudden these students were coming back to us, having not been in the classroom since March of 2020. We did one on civil discourse right around the election. And then the last few have really focused on naming and managing your emotions. And that has come from the work of Dr. Mark Brackett at Yale University in the Ruler Lab. He has written a fabulous book called Permission to Feel. I highly recommend it to anybody that's in this field. I actually recommend it to anybody that ever has emotions, which would be everybody. So, and so we've been able to use his research to really help focus in some of our work there. Today, we actually sent our March it's the first Tuesday of March. So this morning, our latest edition went out. And this time, just in thinking about the pandemic, we really focused on trauma and traumatic stress, secondary traumatic stress, and how to build trauma sensitive environments in your classroom and how to engage in trauma sensitive self-care. If you think about it, for most of us, about a year ago, we left our school buildings or our classrooms and didn't return. And some of our students still haven't returned. And there's a lot of trauma that's involved with the pandemic and layers and layers and layers of complexities and challenges. So we provided some very specific strategies for physical self-help, emotional self-care, social self-care, and emotional self-care. So that's an example.
Kelly, Kelly, I'll speak to that from the receiving end of it, because your crew does a great job and you do a great job of leading that out. But I love the monthly sort of tips, maybe tricks. I know that I read them, and then in our blended learning blog that we put out on a regular basis, we're trying to kind of interweave this sort of SEL into our sort of welcome message, if you will. And so it's been a good inspiration. The other thing I think I want people to hear is this isn't just something that we just started because of pandemic. It's been something that's been ongoing, but some of the messages are tweaked and now customized, right, because of things like the pandemic. So as you mentioned, all the trauma support and self-care now is helpful and specific to that.
Absolutely. And I can say, as somebody that creates them and then also gets them, one of the strategies I use all the time is grounding. And so ever since we had, as I mentioned earlier, we spent some time at Children's Mercy with my son in the fall, and we practice our grounding technique almost every night so that when he needs it, or more when mama needs it, when it's a really high stress anxiety situation, like blood everywhere, we know what to do and we know how to calm our nervous system down so that we can focus. And our kids need to know that. They need to know how to do that for their entire lives, because they will find themselves in stressful situations beyond this year. So providing professional learning is a huge part of this as well. And we have focused in on providing professional learning this year to our building administrators so that they can support their staff. One of the things that we did earlier this year, thinking about deep breathing, grounding, anxiety, was we are very fortunate to have a teacher that also happens to be an ER doctor, and he has been serving in this past year as our medical director. So Dr. Jensen came and spoke we do monthly learning leader meetings, which is our professional learning for our building administrators. He came and he spoke along with a few of our amazing counselors, and they really talked about anxiety, and they talked about the physiological nature of anxiety. Chris gave some great tips for how he has calmed patients down in the past when they've been in high stressful ER situations. And then again, we shared specific strategies with them so that we could equip our leaders, because imagine the amount of stress that they have been under this year. They are the ones that have to field the phone calls with the quarantines. They're the ones that have to send the emails letting people know that you have to quarantine. They're the first call that a lot of our staff members make when they've lost somebody, whether it's to the pandemic or to another reason. So because they are in such, they're kind of on the front line when it comes to tragedy and loss and grief, and just high anxiety, stressful situation. Should we let these kids back in the classroom? Should we not? Am I going to get the virus? Am I not going to get the virus? We really wanted to make sure that they were equipped. So we focused really specifically on them. For the rest of our staff, and Brad can speak to this even more later, we are so lucky to have Canvas, our learning management system, which is what I'm guessing he's famous for among this crowd. As he's very famous nationally and probably globally at this point. We're very lucky to have Brad work for us. He's just the guru, actually, when it comes to Canvas. But we've been able to turn Canvas into more than just a student learning management system. We've been able to turn it into an adult learning management system. And so we built a Return to Teach professional learning course. And in this course, we offer a lot of optional PEL sessions, and many of them have focused on social emotional learning, anywhere from how to do virtual morning meetings, how to build your resiliency. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we've really tried to focus in on emotional intelligence this year. When it comes to other avenues for that tier 1 level of support for SEL, at the elementary level, we do, as I mentioned, morning meetings and class meetings. We do a lot of feelings, check-in activities. We have Project Happiness, which is a series of lessons with tools that really teach students how to take charge of their own happiness and how to become aware and emotionally resilient. Again, a skill that they're going to need for their entire life. As I mentioned, we have a full-time virtual counselor, and so all of our virtual students receive counseling lessons and curriculum. And then when we need to employ a tier 2 intervention, that's when we really start to focus in on small groups, and we'll do like anxiety small groups, depression small groups, stuff like that. We also try to measure SEL in our district. It's super important not to make anecdotal assumptions about how students are doing or if they're developing these skills. So we use Panorama, and this, so far we've been using it with our 3rd through 5th graders. I love it. I am so impressed with not only the tool and the mechanism itself, but I've been super impressed with the strategies that they share, the facilitators that help us analyze the data. They allow us to compare data from year to year. They also allow us to compare it nationally, and you can even drill down to individual students. So it has been a phenomenal resource for us as we kind of really try to be strategic with the limited amount of resources, namely time, that we have with our staff when it comes to SEL. So just kind of an example, some more examples of what Panorama looks like. At the secondary level for tier 1 levels of support, we actually have a program called Sources of Strength that has been funded by our Blue Valley Ed Foundation, which is kind of, it's the program that runs alongside of our programs that people in our community can donate to and write grants for, and our teachers can then use to help equip their lessons and strategies. This is a 2-year program where the students really are the ones that are trained on how to be sources of strength, how to be inspirations of hope. Again, it's about student ownership and resiliency. We're all about making sure that every student in our schools is connected to a trusted adult. We have found that to be extremely difficult this year, and this is definitely going to be an area that we're going to have to hone in on before the start of the 21-22 school year. And then our counselors do like minute meetings or check-ins. And again, our mental health team is available to provide in-person and Zoom office hours. Last but certainly not least, if you're going to have a systematic approach to social emotional learning, the professional learning is important. Providing the direct strategies and being very explicit with why you're providing them is vital, but it has to be embedded in the curriculum. And then it has to be accounted for. So the fidelity of the curriculum. We're so fortunate in the state of Kansas that we actually have social emotional learning standards. It's called the Kansas Character Development and SEL standards. And so we have, from this, since those were passed a couple of years ago, any new curriculum that we've developed, such as our integrated literacy curriculum at the elementary level, includes social emotional learning standards right there in the district curriculum. So you can see here, here's an example from 3rd grade. The essential question is, why is it important for survival? Down below, you can see all the content standards, but also this idea of social awareness is going to be a key part of the learning experience for all of the students that will be engaged in this unit for 3rd grade. Whenever we've revised curriculum, such as our English language arts curriculum at the 7th grade, the revision will now include social emotional learning skills. So you can see social awareness here is embedded in 7th grade ELA on their quarter about how humans impact the world. And then any new curriculum, as I mentioned, here's an example of a new elective that we had, Code Studio, where we are embedding the social emotional learning skill directly into the curriculum. So it's coming from the leadership. It's coming directly into people's inboxes. It's right there in their learning management system. It's being modeled in meetings and any type of professional learning. And then it's right there in their curriculum so that ideally the professional learning communities are talking about what this looks like in real time in the classroom. And then they're also assessing and making instructional decisions based on the formative assessments that they're taking about these skills. As I have already mentioned, this year, and I think this is why you guys asked us to come and talk about this, really threw all of our plans for a wrench. Well-being has been a key focus of our district. Culture is a key focus of our district, but this year was unlike any other. And we had to change course and focus specifically on the difference between anxiety and fear. We've really had to focus in on screen time and making sure that people, not just our students, but our staff are being healthy about screens and the amount of news that they're taking in. We've had to focus on loss and grief. We have lost staff members. We have lost a principal. We have students who have lost family members. And then we also have lost finances. As a district, we've lost finances, but our families are suffering due to job losses or changes or instability. And so these have had to be just some different areas of focus for us that maybe we weren't anticipating pre-pandemic as much. Just a couple other examples, getting the community involved. There's a Give Me 20, which is tied to sources of strength. It's all about focusing on building community and culture and anti-bullying, and having the students own their grief and their loss. And then we also, when absolutely necessary, for example, as I mentioned, we lost a principal earlier this year, we do have a flight team, and the flight team is deployed any single time that we need to go for an emergency situation. So in that example, the flight team was at the elementary school over the weekend, throughout the week, really just providing that one-on-one support to staff members and students who need it. Because when tragedy hits, you don't always know where to go. But if your school is a safe environment, then you go there and then you can get the support that you need there. And that's really a big portion of the need for our flight team. I think this is last but not least, getting the community and the families involved. We've had a couple opportunities to really engage them on, we've partnered with START, which is Stand Together and Rethink Technology. So they've done a lot of virtual events, just providing professional learning for our families and our communities on what it means to be, what does a healthy relationship with technology look like? And then just more recently, we did one on mental fitness where we had a grant to bring in a local licensed clinical marriage and family therapist who really focused in on high school students and the overwhelming fears and increasing rates of depression and suicide. It was already a really, really big issue pre-pandemic. It has only become an even instrumentally larger issue within the pandemic, as our high school kids have probably felt the most when it comes to loss and grief. And then they're isolated, and developmentally, they're at a time period when all they want to do is be around their friends. And that's the thing that we're taking them away from sometimes the most. So, and then we have, again, other series. So it's really just about partnering with these community partnerships and programs that we have to provide these opportunities for families to really consider these topics and to learn some strategies. I can tell you that as part of even the email strategies that we send out, I always edit a version that our principals can share with their families as well. So if you don't know where to go in our district to get help for mental health or to learn more about social emotional learning, we have it right there, not only in our strategic plan, but also on our district website. And then we also use our technology as much as we can to continue to promote just confidence and student empowerment and efficacy. And so I am now going to turn it over to Brad, who's going to talk a little bit more about how we've been able to leverage Canvas to provide SEL and just mental health support to our students.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. There's really just two short things I want to highlight. That more recently we've enabled from the technology standpoint. One is a setting that we can enable that allows students to be able to add their students and staff to add their pronouns that will be displayed on their name for their peers or for their teachers as well, and giving them an opportunity to feel included and help others speak to them in ways that are inclusive. And so this is a newer setting on the Canvas side that they had rolled out several months ago, and so those Canvas users can choose to enable that setting, and it's really nice for us because it allows individuals, if they want, to add that to their name. The next one is
I would also just say real quick about that is our staff can put their pronouns if they want as well. And sometimes just putting your pronouns on your email or in your Zoom or in your Canvas page, it sends a message to the students that need the message. So students perhaps that are struggling with gender identity, students that are transgender, students that are just feeling extra layers of isolation, anxiety, and depression, as research has shown time and time again, because they're part of those marginalized groups. This can be as powerful as putting up a sticker, a safe space sticker in the classroom or anything like that, just to let students know, I care about you and I see you, so I'm here.
And the other resource, Kelly, if you want to hit next on that slide, is something that actually was created at the beginning of this pandemic when we were all distance, all virtual. And one of our counselors collaborated and pulled together resources around this. She called it a virtual calming room. And what's awesome here is that, it's a collection of sounds, of images, of some mindfulness practices, the yoga. And she pulled that together, and then she reached out to us and said, hey, I want to make sure I can share this to others. And what's really neat about the technologies that we have today is when you create something, you can then create and give that to others so they can use it as is, or maybe edit and adjust and make it more personalized for what they need. So she created this in a Canvas course and then uploaded that to this place called the Commons. And then we were able to promote it out to any of the other teachers, any of the other counselors. And actually it's in the Commons. That's a public place. So any other school district or teacher that's using Canvas, whether the free or the paid version, can go to Commons and pull this resource down and then use it. And when you click on, if you clicked on, guided meditation, you're presented with several links. Guys, you can find some of these resources, right? Go to YouTube and search my, guided meditation. You'll find lots of stuff. What's nice about this is she's already curated that for you of things that she knows our students will need and can use and are good and vetted. And so there's some power in that. Honestly, I haven't done a lot of yoga, Kelly. I didn't tell you this, but I haven't done a lot of yoga. I took the morning and did yoga. Actually, it was this morning, kind of intentionally for the first time. And oh my goodness, what a difference it's made today. And just me being more intentional about the stuff I'm doing. It's powerful and it just speaks to it. It's just, I'm happy we're talking about SEL and some of the things we've done in Blue Valley. If we don't take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of others. And so I appreciated seeing this virtual calling room because it reminded me of that important sort of principle. And you model that for us, Kelly. And so I appreciate you helping to lead this charge. But we're not in this isolated place. All of us on this call today, one, as leaders, we have a responsibility to try to lead out like this. And so therefore we need to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others.
Well, Brad, good job, because you actually did 2 of the strategies that were sent in the email today. So you set an intention for your day, and that allowed you to regulate your mood. And then you engage in an activity that is going to regulate your mood, which is yoga. And I will just say one thing about, using Canvas as your friend is, and having this virtual calming room, is imagine if everybody is using the same virtual calming room and using the same types of activities. There's consistency among the messages that students get. So if I'm in the elementary classroom, I have one teacher and then I have some specialist teachers. And so consistency is usually can happen just more naturally. But when I'm in a middle school or a high school, I have 7 to 8 different teachers that are all telling me different things. So I think the beauty of really trying to use the commons to share things, utilize Canvas, is that consistency of messaging of, here are some strategies. That's not working. Okay, well, here's some others. Let's try this. Most importantly, we all care about you and your health, physically, emotionally, socially, and mentally. So, yeah. Okay. And that is it for us. I guess, I don't know if we're taking questions but that is just again, a quick snapshot. We have a lot of work to do in Blue Valley when it comes to SEL and really approaching it from a systemic, and we need to build more of a 3-year plan. We need to really look more at evaluating and measuring, especially at the secondary level. So we are not coming to you as experts. We're just coming to you to share some examples of some of the things that we've been doing over the last couple of years, and particularly this year in light of COVID-19. So thank you so much for asking us to be here today. And it's been an honor.
Yeah, and thank you guys. It looks like Nick has a comment. Nick, you're already on the line. So why don't you make your comments on this to our fabulous friends, Brad Moser and Dr. Kelly Wessel, and then you're up to bat, Nick.
I just wanted to thank them for hitting SEL, and very impressed by all that they're doing in their district. And I took a screenshot of the sharing room or calming room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I will be pulling that down from the comments and sharing that with our counselors.
Yeah,
probably tomorrow.
It's great. Nick, you're awesome, and it's good to see you, Nick. I'll put a link to that in the chat for anyone else. If you don't have Canvas, it's a free. You can create a free teacher account and then go grab the resource yourself. So, but yeah, thanks, Nick, for highlighting that. That's not me or Kelly. That's some of our great staff. I think it was Emily, if I'm not mistaken. Kelly,
counselor, one of our middle school counselors. Yes,
I'll throw that.
Thank her on our behalf.
Thanks, Nick.
Firefly Computers and Trinity 3 Technology are now Trufera. And at Trufera, we don't measure success by how many devices we sell to schools. We measure success by how those devices are used to transform the learning experience. Today, we are at Hayworth Unified School District, and we want to share their story with you.
Our planning was definitely different this year. We spent the summer planning for the unknown. We didn't know if we would be in person or virtual or a combination of the two. Our focus was on preparing staff and families for a constantly changing learning environment.
What's wonderful is the opportunities that the technology provides. With COVID, we're not able to get out and experience field trips this year. And so we can bring those learning experiences into the classroom.
What we did in Google Earth is, we would travel to a ton of places like Japan or China, the Eiffel Tower, Washington, D.C., and see all those monuments, the Liberty Bell, the pyramids, and like all kinds of other stuff. You could maybe even see your home.
So we did this project where we pretended to go to different places, and we made these digital postcards that we could send to our friends and family.
The two companies that came together to form Trufera were really known for not only our educational hardware, but also our warranty services and our white glove services. And of course, we bring all of that historical knowledge and that expertise to the new company, and I think we do it better than what we ever have before. But we're using this as a platform to really rally around educators and empower them with the skills that they need through professional learning and through digital curriculum to be able to provide these kinds of learning experiences to students.
Moving forward, I feel like every teacher is more confident, better equipped, and more effective at educating students using the technology that we have. And when students are learning, that's all that really matters.
Trufera, transforming learning experiences.